What's up, everybody? DocDog1985. There's levels to this. All right, check this out. So I made that video talking about the Xbox Series S and how 45 frames per second is not allowed. It's not enough, right? I got a comment from that video that kind of broke my heart, man. The dude was like, "Hey Doc, should I trade in my Xbox Series S and then go ahead and get an Xbox Series X?" And at face value, the answer to that for me is simple. It's like, yeah, get rid of your S and go ahead and get your X. But as I sat there and I thought about it more and more, I realized something, okay? And this is, again, I always have hard time explaining stuff, and then I gotta think about it. I should probably think about this stuff before the camera turns on, but whatever, you're getting it raw. Numbers don't matter. Nope, that's not what I want to say. Specs don't matter. No, that's not what I want to say either. Specs matter, but your experience matters even more. That's it. So check this out. If the game looks good and it runs smooth, to you, that's the only thing that matters. So let's say they didn't come out with this chart that showed the resolution of Resident Evil running on the Xbox Series S, and we didn't know that it was running at 1440p, 45 frames per second, and all you had was an Xbox Series S, or that's the only place you played that game, and you played it, and let's say it's a slower paced game anyways, does that really matter to you? Could you still enjoy the experience? And if the answer is yes, you could still enjoy the experience because it looks good and it runs smooth enough for you, then the actual specs really don't matter. See, if we got rid of the digital foundries and the 200 zoom and all this other stuff, at the end of the day, when you're playing the game, it's whatever you are experiencing. That's what tops everything, whatever you are experiencing. So people don't think about the difference the placement of the joysticks make, right? Until you actually play with an Xbox controller and you play with the joysticks that are separate from each other versus playing with the joysticks that are down. It makes a difference. Google Stadia controller, for an example, has a joystick situated the same way that the PlayStation does, which is fine. I can play like that, but I'm not gonna sit here and lie to you. The Xbox controller, because of the joysticks, the way they're placed, feels better to me. And that's the only thing that matters, is whatever feels better to me. That's it, right? So like I was saying, I could play Google Stadia at 1080p without playing with the 4K, and it's fine to me. I'm playing with the 4K now because I'm doing this low resolution challenge or whatever. But the whole point is, whatever you're experiencing is what really matters. So I get it. I understand why people get mad at me and all this other stuff. Because if you bought the Xbox Series S, hopefully you bought it knowing that it's not going to be as powerful as the Xbox Series X. The only issue I have is we didn't know it was going to be this weak. We thought it was going to run things at 60. Before the Xbox Series X came out, nobody said anything about tools. Nobody said anything about developers not knowing how to use it. Nobody said anything. I cannot picture a scenario where the PS4 Pro or the Xbox One X was going to be running games better. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter. It's whatever your experience is. And yes, as games come out, I want to believe, listen to me, I want to believe that games will run better on the Xbox Series S than obviously the PS4 Pro and the Xbox One X. But right now, depending on what you value more, which I value frames more than I do resolution, PS4 Pro and Xbox One X running a game at 60 when the Xbox Series S is running a game at 45 and 30, that's, again, what it means to you. To me, frames over resolution all day. Now, when you're running 4K 60, anything above 60, I mean, depending on what type of game it is, if you're not playing a competitive shooter, you could argue that it's overkill, right? But still, everything looks better at higher frames to me. That's just me. But the whole spec thing, right? The whole numbers thing, we get so fixated on what these numbers are and what the specs are instead of just gaming. Just game, play the game. If you like the game and like I said, it looks good and it runs smooth, those are the two criterias. Those are the only two things you need to know. Does it look good and does it run smooth? If it does, perfect. leave the FPS counting and all that other stuff to the PC master race. And some of them will tell you that they get bombarded with that stuff to the point where they can't even really play a game. They got their FPS counter. That's almost part of the game, is looking at the FPS counter, seeing if they could make it rise up, if they could turn off shadows or whatever. Trust me, I fall into that trap as well. Once I got rid of the FPS counter for all my PC games and I just booted them up, or I let GeForce decide my graphics settings, if I played the game and it was smooth, I kept it like that. If I played the game and it wasn't smooth, I already knew what I was turning down. I was going to go into settings, see if for whatever reason my computer thought it could play that ultra, I'm dropping that down. Then I'm looking at shadows, dropping shadows. Ain't nobody staring at shadows, right? With these consoles, we can't do that. So we're hoping that the developers are choosing whatever the best looking and smoothest experience will be. So maybe the developers felt like 1440p, 45 frames per second, when you're actually playing and not looking at an actual number, doesn't really matter. So to answer your question, dude, don't trade an Xbox Series S if it's satisfying your needs and it's giving you what you want. Because at the end of the day, that's the only thing that matters. I don't care what any statistics say. I don't care what anybody else tells you. If you're satisfied with it, your experience is more valuable than what anybody else can say. That's like telling somebody over and over again that eggs are healthy. Yo, eggs are healthy. Eggs are healthy, but they're allergic to eggs. It's not healthy to them. It's going to kill them. So statistically, it could be perfect. Eggs could be the most healthiest food in the world. Just using eggs as an example. Calm down, vegans. But if it gives somebody an anaphylactic shock, that's not going to matter. Dog1985, yo, there's levels to this. And when you realize that video games is about playing games, and not about teraflops, not about SSDs, not about resolutions, it is what it is. Now, you know I'm just saying this until Xbox starts playing games better than the PS5, right? We out. Peace.